Welcome back to Wainsider where we peel back the layers of the stories that define the WWE Universe. Tonight, we're diving into a tragedy that's left us all reeling: the reported passing of WWE legend Rey Mysterio, leaving his son Dominick an orphan. This isn't just a headline, it's a wound that cuts deep, a story of family, loyalty, and the crushing weight of legacy. Stay with us, because this one's going to hit you in the heart. The Mysterio family has been a cornerstone of wrestling for decades. Rey Mysterio, the high-flying luchador, redefined what it meant to be a superstar. From his days in WCW to his iconic runs in WWE, he carried the mask with pride, embodying resilience and heart. But behind the mask was Oscar Gutierrez, a father, a husband, a man navigating the pressures of a legacy that spanned generations. His story wasn't just about titles, it was about family. Dominick Mysterio, his son, grew up in the shadow of that legacy. Born into the wrestling world, Dominick was ringside as a child, watching his father defy odds against giants like Kevin Nash and Batista. Those moments weren't just matches, they were lessons in courage, in carrying the Mysterio name. But legacies are heavy, and for Dominick, the weight of being Rey's son was both a blessing and a burden. Please like, share and subscribe for more WWE content. The WWE Universe watched Dominick evolve from a kid in the crowd to a competitor in the ring. His journey wasn't easy. Early on, he was part of a storyline where Eddie Guerrero claimed to be his real father, a narrative that blurred the lines between kayfabe and reality. Those moments planted seeds of doubt, not just for fans, but for Dominick himself, who had to navigate his identity under the spotlight. Rey and Dominick's bond became a centerpiece of WWE storytelling. They made history as the first father-son duo to win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, a moment that felt like a coronation. The crowd roared as they stood together, masks gleaming, a symbol of unity. But beneath the surface, there were cracks, subtle, unspoken tensions that only those backstage could sense. Wrestling families are built on loyalty, but they're also tested by pressure. The Mysterio name carried expectations: to perform, to inspire, to never falter. Dominick, young and ambitious, wanted to carve his own path. Rey, the veteran, wanted to protect his son while upholding the family's honor. Those desires clashed quietly, in private moments away from the cameras. Backstage, the dynamics were complex. Superstars who knew the Mysterios spoke of Rey's pride in Dominick, but also his fear that the wrestling world would chew up his son the way it had so many others. Dominick, meanwhile, felt the eyes of the locker room on him, judging whether he was worthy of the Mysterio name. Resentment simmered, not loud, but persistent. The bloodline, though not directly tied to the Mysterios, cast a long shadow. Their dominance, their unity, set a standard for what a wrestling family could be. Rey admired the Samoan dynasty, but Dominick saw something else: a blueprint for power, a way to step out from under his father's legacy. The allure of that strength, that control, lingered in his mind. Social media posts from Dominick hinted at his struggle. Cryptic messages about finding my own way and breaking free sparked speculation. Fans wondered if he was teasing a heel turn, but those closest to him knew it was deeper. Dominick wasn't just rebelling against Rey, he was wrestling with the weight of being his son, of living up to a legend. The wrestling world is a pressure cooker, and family ties are often its first casualty. Rey, a man who'd lost friends like Eddie Guerrero to the industry's toll, tried to shield Dominick. But shielding can feel like smothering, and Dominick's frustration grew. Backstage whispers spoke of arguments, of Dominick storming out of meetings, of Rey's quiet sighs when asked about his son. Then came the night that changed everything. It wasn't in an arena, not under the bright lights of a pay-per-view. It was on a quiet road, away from the WWE Universe's gaze. The details are still murky, but the news hit like a sledgehammer. Rey Mysterio, the heart of Lucha Libre, was gone, killed in a tragic car accident. The wrestling world stopped breathing. The shock was immediate, visceral. Superstars flooded X with tributes, their words heavy with disbelief. Rey's peers, John Cena, Edge, Sasha Banks, shared stories of his kindness, his mentorship, his unbreakable spirit. But for Dominick, the loss was something else entirely. His father, his guide, his shadow, was gone, leaving him alone in a world that demanded he keep fighting. Here's where the story takes a darker turn. Halfway through this tragedy, a chilling rumor emerged, one that's still unconfirmed but impossible to ignore. Sources close to the investigation whispered of foul play, of an attack on Ray's vehicle that wasn't just an accident. The word, sabotage, floated through backstage conversations, a dagger in the heart of an already grieving community. The speculation pointed to Dominick. Not directly, not yet, but the whispers were there. Had his resentment, his need to break free, driven him to something unthinkable? The idea was unthinkable to some, but others remembered Dominick's recent distance, his coldness toward Ray. Could ambition have twisted into something monstrous? The emotional aftermath was a storm. Dominick, now an orphan, his mother Angie having passed years earlier, faced the world alone. He didn't speak publicly, didn't post on X. Those who saw him backstage described a man hollowed out, his eyes vacant, his bravado gone. Was it grief, guilt, or something else? No one could say for sure. The locker room was divided. Some, like Ray's old allies in the Latino world order, refused to believe Dominick could be involved. They saw him as a son mourning his father, crushed by loss. Others, hardened by years in the industry, weren't so sure. They pointed to Dominick's heel turn in 2022, when he betrayed Ray to join the Judgment Day, as proof he was capable of anything. The Judgment Day itself was a factor. Rhea Ripley, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, they'd molded Dominick into Dirty Dom, a persona that thrived on defiance. Had they pushed him too far, feeding his resentment until it became something darker? Backstage, whispers suggested the group was distancing itself, wary of being tied to the scandal. Fans, too, were torn. X exploded with hashtags. #JusticeForRay, #DominickDidIt. Some shared memories of Ray's greatest matches, his underdog spirit. Others dissected Dominick's every move, from his cryptic posts to his silence now. The WWE Universe, always passionate, became a courtroom, debating guilt and innocence with every tweet. WWE management faced a crisis. Ray's death wasn't just a personal loss, it was a blow to the company's heart. Shows went on, but the energy was off. Announcers spoke in hushed tones, avoiding Dominick's name. An internal investigation was launched, but details were scarce, leaving room for rumors to fester. The Mysterio legacy, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a tragedy. Ray's mask, a symbol of pride, was now a reminder of what was lost. Dominick, the heir, carried the weight alone. If he returned to the ring, would he wear the mask, or reject it entirely? The question hung heavy, unanswered. The emotional toll on Dominick was unimaginable. Those who knew him best said he was wrestling with more than grief, he was wrestling with himself. The boy who'd grown up in Ray's shadow was now forced to define his own legacy, under the worst possible circumstances. Every choice he made would be scrutinized, every step a potential misstep. Backstage, the whispers grew louder. Some claimed to have overheard Dominick arguing with Ray weeks before the crash, about creative control, about the future. Others said Ray had been planning a retirement match, one that would have passed the torch to Dominick. If true, it made the tragedy even more unbearable. The wrestling world is no stranger to loss, but this one cut deeper. Ray wasn't just a superstar, he was a father, a mentor, a symbol. His death, and the shadow of suspicion around Dominick, forced everyone to confront the cost of this industry, the pressure, the rivalries, the toll on family. What does this mean for the Mysterio legacy? If Dominick is innocent, he faces the impossible task of carrying on without his father's guidance. If the rumors are true, the legacy is tainted, a story of betrayal that will haunt wrestling history. Either way, the Mysterio name will never be the same. This tragedy reminds us of the blood that runs through wrestling, not just in the ring, but in the families who live it.